I know he died.
6'7". All right, my fault. Welcome back to another podcast. I forgot the title. Yeah, what he said. So I'm gonna be reading my piece, my map that I made in class. So yeah. All right, mapped all the places in my life. Growing up, I didn't just move through neighborhoods. I moved through moments, shaping me along the way. Each person, each place, each memory helped build the version of Kwamen you see standing today. 18 years ago, I was born 10 minutes away from the school I've attended my entire life, Haverford. Lincoln Hospital, the birthplace of Kwamen Waters. The baby would soon learn his life would be a roller coaster. From meeting Patty LaBelle to looking at potential schools I would go to at a young age, I wouldn't know what life would have in store for me in the future. Either being 5 or 6 years old, my mom and I toured another interacademic school, William Penn Charter. Some students at Haverford might joke about their athletics, but back then I didn't care about rivalries or a bad athletics program. I just explored where I might have belonged. Also known as the Quakers at the time. At the time, I didn't even know what a Quaker was, but at the time sounded like a cult. However, the tour lived up to its potential. Ultimately, I liked the school and considered it an option when we were done touring schools to make a decision. Days later, we went to a school with buildings as big as almost a skyscraper when I looked at them. This was Haverford. My eyes lit up when I went on the tour. The classrooms, pods, and warm environment had everything I needed. I don't remember what I said, but I looked at my mom with this look, signaling this was my place to be. I would have never thought the day I would be at the place I had fallen in love with for the past 18 years of my long and illustrious life. Even though my dad left at an early age, I was still able to find my way with the guidance of my mother. She has always been and will be supportive of whatever I do from this point on. And West Philadelphia, born and raised, I wasn't always on the playground for most of my days. It froze. That's crazy. However, I did hold on, it's glitching. Hold on. I'm gonna read that line again. All right, in West Philadelphia, born and raised, I wasn't always on the playground for most of my days. However, I did play Pee Wee football at public playground for the West Philly Tar Heels. I liked it, but my mom thought it was too rough for me, so she pulled me from it. But that wasn't the end of my football story, though. Before I even started going to school, my mom had taken me to this church against my will. I remember throwing a hissy fit before going through the doors on an early Sunday morning when the sun hadn't even risen yet. Christian Stronghold Baptist Church was what it was named. Ever since that day, I've been there every Sunday morning at 8:30. We won't talk about the days that I didn't go because I just didn't want to or I was sick. Even when it's not Sunday, I am there 3 days a week, Sundays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, and even Thursdays, because Good Friday was last week. On Tuesdays, I have tutoring because I'm a tiny bit slow in math, and every Wednesday evening I have Bible study. It's crazy how I never wanted to even go there in the first place, and now I'm there 3 times a week. Back in school, I've had an abundance of firsts there. First best friend, first time trying out a sport, first offer, and my first but hopefully not last recognition for football. I've participated in a wide array of activities here and there, from Black Student Union to Ultimate Frisbee. It also helped me to land my first job ever at Friend Central, which is a summer job that I will always have fun working with. Mr. Loza, 5th grade science teacher, is still friends with my mom and I ever since I passed through 5th grade into middle school. She came up to me at the end of my freshman year and introduced me to this job at Friend Central Lower School. She said I could add her as a reference as I was applying. When I got the position in the later weeks, I was ecstatic. I was going to be paid to practically babysit. Ever since I've appreciated everything she's done for me up until this point. I plan on working there this upcoming summer because they kept inviting me back to work there since my sophomore year. I will always appreciate her for hooking me up with a job so I don't have to worry about riding in the house every summer. Haverford may sit at the center of my life map, but every step, from the West Philly playgrounds to church pews to summer jobs, has been a dot on the route that's made me who I am. Remember where you started, and you'll understand how far you've come while being mapped. Yeah, so that's my whoa. So I mean,
Off of that, we can descend into something that we all have a very good appreciation for, which is football. Love some football.
Yeah.
It doesn't. To be a game manager, it's not the same as being really good and having a good system. And oftentimes people get those two things confused with guys like Jalen Hurts, who is 100% a top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now, not biased at all.
See, I think a big part of the reason why people say stuff like that, or they downplay QBs, like, oh, he's a game manager, he's getting carried by his team. I think just QB play right now, just as a whole, is just worse than what it was. Like, I remember I was thinking about, where would I rank Jalen Hurts? I think I'd realistically probably put him at 5. I think that just felt weird because, you go back like 12 years, right? Go back to like 2013. The 5th best QB in the league was like Drew Brees.
It's just nostalgia. Guys who don't. It's the same thing with what we do with guys in college.
Oh, there's like less legends.
When people are to be a legend, you have to be old. To be a legend, you have to have played the game for a really long time. You wouldn't call Lamar Jackson, you wouldn't call Josh Allen, you wouldn't call Patrick Mahomes legends because they're still young.
Well, Mahomes, yeah, but the other guys, they're at least on their way to being.
They're getting to that status.
Yeah, they're on their way to being legends, or they either are or on their way to being legends. I feel like there's less.
Josh Allen was in the same draft class as Mahomes, right? Weren't they the same year
or
1 year apart? Like they're
Allen
not
was a year later.
They're not that different in age. What are they, like 27, 28
Yeah, but Mahomes
years old?
is 3 rings.
Okay, Mahomes is 3. Mahomes.
But I think
lost to the Eagles in the last Super Bowl. That's all that matters.
But now my point is like QB play as a whole is kind of like worse than it is now. Like you go back to 2011, there were 4 or 5 5,000-yard passers
in one last game.
In 1 year, in one last game. This year there was one maybe. Was there even a single 5,000?
I don't think there was one.
Exactly, yeah, a whole extra game, and there's not even a single 5,000-yard passer. I think this QB play as a whole has just kind of gone down. So I think people kind of like
QBs run the ball more.
Yeah.
QBs run the ball more. You got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, even Mahomes. You got them running for a few hundred yards a year. Lamar a little bit more than those, and Allen also runs for a lot. But quarterbacks are doing more. They're doing like different stuff than they used to do. You add those yards, and they're closer to that 5,000 number. If you add Lamar's rushing yards to his passing yards, he's in the upper 4s, lower 5s. Like the quarterbacks of the past, like Tom Brady just threw for yards. He never ran for yards. I think his career long was like 12 yards or something, a 12-yard rush.
He like barely got to like 1,000 career rushing yards in 20 years, I think. Yeah. It was a
that's-
whole big thing. Like, oh yeah,
That's like what's that? 50 yards a year?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that means that with
Like
the course
3
of
yards a
60,
game.
yeah, you're having like a few yards per game. Like that is not. Like these guys are still having relatively the same amount of offensive production. They're just doing it in a different way.
I think it just like feels different. I feel like realistically, how many current QBs are going to be Hall of Famers? Like definitely like Mahomes, probably Lamar, probably Allen.
Yeah.
Maybe Burrow. We'll see.
He's got to get a ring, or he's got to do something.
But it feels like those 4 are the only really kind of like likely Hall of Fame, like people I classify as like likely to be Hall of Famers, or like very good chance
if they keep up
at
what
the
they're
moment.
doing.
If they keep it up, like I said, you go back 10 years, you had like you had like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees.
Aaron Rodgers ain't retired yet.
Yeah.
He's
exactly.
not done. He's still got something left in the tank.
But even like Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, those might not all be Hall of Famers.
Eli Manning should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I don't think he should have been first ballot.
He should have been first ballot. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champ, 2-time Super Bowl MVP, and he beat Brady twice.
Eli Manning was like a above average QB for just like most of his career. He was very rarely a great QB. He had like 4 Pro Bowls in like 20 years of playing. 15 years of playing.
2-time Super Bowl champ.
So is Jim Plunkett. He's not in the Hall of Fame. You probably don't even know who Jim Plunkett is.
I plead the 5th.
Exactly. Like.
But I mean, drafts in 2 days.
Draft is in 2 days.
Incoming QB class. I mean, pretty loaded, I would say.
No, it's not.
I don't-
Yes,
loaded.
no.
I mean,
You got Riley Leonard. You got Jackson Dart. Who else?
None of those are like.
Jalen Milrow. He's got
Cam
arm.
Ward.
Cam Ward. Yeah.
Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders is not that good.
Here's the thing. That's
Why? Well, I mean, like,
it's not really like loaded though. Like it's got a lot of like decent prospects, very few great prospects. Like Cam Ward's probably going number one. Shedeur Sanders might go soon after, but then after
I
that,
think it's
it's
good.
like
I think the Shedeur Sanders, I think, is gonna fall to like either the Saints at 9, or he might fall to like the middle of the first round. He's not going to be taken by the Browns. He's certainly not going to be taken by the Giants. They just signed 2 quarterbacks. The Patriots already got their guy. And as we move down the draft board, even teams like the Raiders, who could potentially have a guy, they got Geno Smith last year in the trade this past offseason, so they don't really need a guy. They're probably going to take Ashton Genty. You're in a world where, maybe the Saints, because they had, Derek Carr get out for the year. He's injured with a shoulder. So maybe you have someone like the Saints doing it, but realistically, who is going to draft Shedeur Sanders? Plus, he also feels like, to be honest, I think he's going to come with a lot of, attitude stuff, because I feel like just being Deion Sanders' son, I don't know, I just feel like that there's going to be a lot more, media presence that's going to surround him, and a lot of quick negativity if he does poorly, and a lot of, too much of ego-boosting success if they're doing well. Just think back to what Colorado was 2 years ago. They went from being they won 1 game the year before the Deion Sanders experiment. He came in, they went 3-0 in their first 3 games. They were fired up, everything was great, it was like a party. And then they went and played Oregon and got destroyed. And the media turned on them immediately. That's what I'm scared he'll do in the NFL. He'll be playing okay, and then he'll have a bad game, and then the media's going to crush him. They're going to crush him, and the media is something that's not very forgiving. They're going to go after him. And I think that's going to be the downfall of his career. The question is, can he block out the noise? And for a guy like Shedeur, with all of the noise that's going to be there more than most, I think it's going to be really tough for him.
he definitely does have somewhat of an ego. I think that's definitely kind of there. Like I kind of always think back to Josh Rosen, who got picked 10th overall back in 2018. When he got picked, he said there were 9 mistakes made ahead of him, and he said, "I'll make sure over the next decade or so that they'll realize they made a mistake."
They did not realize.
Josh Rosen is currently taking classes at the University of Pennsylvania. He has not played in the NFL for 3 years. 9 mistakes made ahead of him.
Well,
so that's what getting a
I
big
think there
ego.
certainly was one mistake made in the top 10, and it wasn't the other 9.
Yeah.
It was not the other 9.
So
Josh
definitely
Rosen
getting a
never
big.
got split.
So yeah, I think being confident, I think, is good, but definitely having a big ego can kind of lead you astray sometimes.